His snake tail coiled around me, his eyes misty. "Your Highness must take responsibility for me." I was so startled I nearly jumped out of my skin. This was no proper monk. He wasn't even human. Just a month ago, he was still calmly counting his prayer beads, his expression solemn, his voice cold. "Benefactor, this monk is a man of the cloth. Please maintain your decorum. My Dharma name is Jing Qing." He paused, his voice dropping. "This monk has no intention of returning to secular life." My mind was reeling. This monk, given an inch, had taken a mile, daring to even think of becoming a husband. I was about to burst out in curses when suddenly, a silken object appeared in my hand. Looking closer, it was my very own crimson mandarin duck embroidered undergarment. My sobs caught in my throat. I trembled as I asked the monk, "Where did this come from?" The monk, somewhat pleased with himself, said, "This monk found this brocade cloth of superior quality, so I washed it clean to serve as a spare handkerchief for your Highness. I am the villainous, not a transmigrator. I have no system, no magical artifacts. Everything I possess now I awakened within myself. Today is a crucial day, a major turning point in my life as a villainous. I intend to corner the male lead and take him home, force him into intimacy. Eventually, the female lead, incensed, would fight for justice for the male lead. The male and female leads would then live happily ever after." And then, as if tearing the villainous me apart by 5 horses wasn't enough, my head would be displayed on the city walls for 7 days and 7 nights. What kind of righteous leads are these? My ending as the villainous is truly tragic. But that's how the author wrote it. I have no control over the plot, so I can only grit my teeth and accept it. Who knew that by deliberately avoiding the male lead, I'd end up capturing a monka man with not a single blade of grass on his head? I am a supporting character, not heavily described by the author, who only wrote that I came here to kidnap someone and lock them away for 7 days and 7 nights. I suspect the male and female leads are retaliating against me. I just need to follow the main plot, and I can still trick them with the details. Inside the carriage, the monk stared at me in shock, his prayer beads looking as if they might snap. He probably knew of my notorious reputation as a villainous and feared for his own purity. He parted his lips, surely intending to call for help. How could I let him have his way? This was my carriage, and I was Princess Than Ayan, the current emperor's most beloved daughter. My subordinates surrounded us. If he cried out loudly, what if people thought I couldn't restrain myself and was doing something to him inside the carriage? I was about to call him an idiot, but that would seem disrespectful. So I decided to just tell him to shut up and stop yelling. But my mind short-circuited. I glared at him fiercely and ordered, "Spit it out." The monk actually did spit something out, a prayer bead. This monk wanted to swallow the bead and commit suicide. Though I am evil, I never intended to harm a life. I reassured him that I merely admired his scholarship and would release him after he chanted scriptures for me for 7 days. The monk, being a vegetarian and devoted to Buddha, was calmer than even I, the kidnapper. He lowered his gaze and slowly said, "Very well," much like a virtuous maiden abducted by a wicked young master. This monk wasn't bad-looking at all. He had captivating peach blossom eyes, a tall, straight nose, and an aura of an aloof, ascetic flower. He was a proper monk. Though I am a villainous, that's just a role forced upon me by the author. I don't want to repeat the same mistakes. I must be a good person. Yes, I must learn to treat others well. I averted my gaze, then my eyes landed back on the monk's face. I want to restore my reputation. The book said that after the male lead stormed the palace and overthrew my father, the enraged populace would all clamor for the head of the notorious Princess Me. The monk remained utterly calm. Noticing my gaze, his voice was clear as a babbling brook. "Benefactor, this monk is a man of the cloth. Please maintain your decorum." "What do you mean, decorum? I've been unruly since childhood. If he says I lack decorum, I'll show him just how much I lack it. Monk, what is your name?" "This princess finds you rather amusing. This is just a scare. I have no interest in monks." "My Dharma name is Jing Qing." He paused, his voice dropping. "This monk has no intention of returning to secular life." My mind was reeling. This monk, given an inch, had taken a mile, daring to dream of becoming a husband. "Master, you will stay in that room." I personally led him to the bedchamber. The book described that after I brought someone back, I would directly throw them into the room, then immediately strip off my clothes, intending to force them into submission. What kind of writing is this author doing? I'm a princess, who can I have? Why must I forcibly take the male lead? There are other men in this world, so this man right in front of me is another man. The monk seemed a little unaccustomed to this luxurious bedchamber, which even contained some peculiar items, such as a leather whip and various alluring garments. The monk lowered his eyes, clutching his prayer beads tightly. After a moment, he asked, "Has the benefactor not left yet?" He was urging me to leave, but I had to follow the plot. Otherwise, this book would simply erase my name, and I would disappear completely. I used my princess authority to warn the master, "Do as you wish." This princess loves this room and enjoys lingering here every day. The monk had always been aloof, but when he took out his meditation cushion, he was anything but calm. I closed the door. I had to take off my clothes, so of course I couldn't let anyone see. The monk's eyes widened, his expression panicked, as if to say, "Don't do anything reckless. Your Highness, if you like this room, there's no need for this monk to stay. A woodshed would suffice." The monk's lips, usually chanting scriptures, were now trembling violently. He grabbed his meditation cushion, intending to leave. How could I let him go? The 7 days and 7 nights in the book weren't written for nothing. The male lead was coerced by the villainous from beginning to end, unable to escape. Yet, until the very end, the male lead maintained his purity. I could use this loophole. All doors were blocked by my guards, yet the monk, seemingly without a care for his life, lunged towards the outside. "Your Highness, this is not good for your reputation." The monk, typically serene and abstinent, showed no signs of blushing or a racing heart, making me wonder if he was even a normal person. I stopped after removing my outer robe. The book only said I took off my clothes, not that I stripped completely. The monk had already begun chanting scriptures, his eyes tightly shut, looking as if he wanted to break through the window. I hastily urged him to turn back. "I'm a bit warm, you see. It's just an outer robe. It's also a good opportunity to listen to the master's lecture." Under my threats and coaxing, the monk finally opened his eyes, but maintained a certain distance from me, as if fearing I was a ravenous wolf who would devour him whole, bones and all. "Does the benefactor truly wish to hear me chant scriptures?" The monk frowned, extremely handsome, with refined features. What a pity he was a monk. My expression remained unchanged. "Yes, of course. Why else would I invite the master here?" "Then what are those things for?" he asked, pointing at the leather whip. "Don't ask me. How would I know why the author wrote these things in?" But to reassure the monk, I smiled. "They're for cinching my waist." As I spoke, I demonstrated, wrapping the leather whip around my waist. The monk's eyes trembled slightly. He seemed to be saying, "So you have such peculiar tastes." But as a man of the cloth, he couldn't lie. He must have been enduring it with great difficulty. "Monk, what are you staring at my waist for? I don't want him to make fun of me." I glared at him. The monk wasn't finished. He then pointed to a short mandarin duck embroidered top and asked, "And what is that object?" I followed his gaze. Damn that author. Why did they have to include a crimson mandarin duck undergarment? My old face flushed. I walked over, picked it up, and fiercely declared, "It's a brocade handkerchief for wiping my nose." The monk lowered his eyes and mumbled, "That brocade handkerchief is truly unique." I endured the pages hanging over my head. I still didn't leave. The monk looked distressed, but because of my status, he dared not say more. "Maid, come light the lamps for me." Seeing the mandarin duck undergarment, her ears turned red and she hastily ran out. Was she afraid I'd make her stay and watch? "Benefactor." Before he could finish, I preempted him. "The master must be hungry. This princess respects her teachers and reveres the way, so I've ordered servants to bring in food. It's only the first night." "Who told you, monk, to be conveniently standing right next to the male lead? So quick, so convenient." "If I didn't abduct you, then who would I abduct?" The monk gazed at the table laden with food, still standing with lowered eyes. I told him to sit. "There's no third person here." Only then did the monk speak. "Your Highness has not yet touched her chopsticks. How dare I begin first?" The monk's words sounded humble, but his tone was anything but. It was as if he was guarding against me, fearing I might have poisoned the food or do something improper while he wasn't paying attention. This monk's mind was filled with many suspicions. I picked up some food, sampling a piece from each dish. "No poison, eat. Usually others taste my food for me. This is the first time I've ever tasted food for someone else." The monk seemed slightly taken aback, his long eyelashes fluttering truly beautiful, but he only ate a few bites of vegetarian dishes. I ate for a while. For some reason, my chest suddenly felt uncomfortable. So hot, a wave of heat flooded my head. With blurry vision, I grabbed something cool as ice, yet incredibly soothing to me. I couldn't help but hug it tightly. I wondered what it tasted like, surely like a cold pastry. I opened my mouth to bite, nearly breaking my front teeth. It was so hard, like my jade pillow. At the same time, a pleasant scent of sandalwood drifted into my nose. In my delirium, I even heard someone cry out in pain. "Your Highness, could you please order someone to release this monk?" When I awoke in bed, I saw the monk meditating in the corner. I felt a pang of guilt, but immediately refused him. "No." The monk rejected, looked incredibly wronged, his dark pupils cast down. Even his chanting stopped. "Master, are you blaming me?" I spoke sincerely, but he seemed to think I was provoking him. He frowned. This monk wouldn't dare. I desperately wanted to tell him that I truly had no ulterior motives, but every time the monk resisted, it only made me feel like he was playing hard to get. "Master, what do you usually do at this hour in the temple?" I tried to project a normal image for him. He sighed. "I teach." "That's easy," I said reverently. "I shall be your student, listening to the master's teachings." The monk wanted no contact with me, as if I were a ravenous beast, ready to bite him. "Unless there are at least 20 people, this monk will not begin the lecture." And so, the entire room was packed with people. Guards, maids, even the courtyard sweepers, all squatting on the floor, looking at each other. "Master, count them, there are over 100 people here." I was utterly sincere, yet he didn't believe me. The monk looked pleased and began chanting scriptures. My maid, Little Fang, the one who lit the lamps yesterday, discreetly asked me, "Your Highness, how did you sleep last night?" I scratched my head and yawned. "Not bad at all." Little Fang smiled. "As expected, Your Highness, will it continue tonight?" She then conjured a small vial, leaning in to whisper. This servant feared the monk might not be up to it, so I specially prepared this. I was horrified. "No, what are you thinking?" I was about to refuse when a figure stopped right in front of me. The monk's expression remained unchanged, but his rosy lips trembled uncontrollably. Perhaps he was cursing me as a depraved lunatic in his heart. I gestured to Little Fang with my eyes. "How can such a thing be discussed openly? We must somehow deceive the monk and get through this." Little Fang understood, smiling. Her eyes seemed to say, "Don't worry, I understand." She immediately stood up, her voice not loud, yet loud enough to make me want to smash a window and bolt. "This single pill is potent enough to revive even the most depleted, stronger than 6 of the usual kind." The monk's face went pale. I was completely dumbfounded. The monk grabbed the door, desperate to leave. I immediately ordered my guard, Little Kiwi, to carry the monk back. What if he ran away now? There were still 6 days and 6 nights left. I continued to reassure the monk, "This is just a sugar pill. If you don't believe me, I'll taste it for you." Before Little Fang could stop me, I swallowed it. It seemed to have no effect. "Master, you see, I have no improper intentions towards you." Before I could finish, the monk gasped, stepping back 2 paces and muttering, "Amitabha." Little Fang cried out, "Princess, you're bleeding from your nose." I touched my nose, then looked at my hand. My heart sank. I'm afraid of blood. When I awoke, it was twilight. More accurately, I awoke from hunger, having missed breakfast before fainting. I regretted fainting so ungracefully. Surely the monk had fled. The moment I opened my eyes, the monk was right before me, chanting scriptures. The last rays of the setting sun illuminated him, seeming to gild him with a layer of Buddhist light, exquisitely beautiful, as if he could ascend to heaven at any moment. The monk's voice was so pleasant to the ear. His eyelashes were so long. The monk's face was truly handsome. The monk seemed to realize I was awake. He gently opened his dark eyes and slowly called out, "Benefactor." I instantly grew unhappy. Benefactor? He must call every woman benefactor. In his eyes, I'm no different from anyone else. I'm a princess, for heaven's sake. I asked him, "Is this scripture you're chanting meant only for me, or can others hear it too?" The monk narrowed his eyes. After a long moment he spoke, his voice clear as the faint sandalwood scent on him. "Does your Highness wish to hear anything else?" This monk was clearly dodging my question, but then he added, "This scripture I have never chanted for anyone else." My heart swelled with joy, but I didn't show it, lest the monk take an inch and demand a mile. This princess reluctantly allowed him to continue chanting. It had been 3 days, and the monk hadn't slept in a bed. I was a little worried he couldn't endure it. I called for Little Kiwi, my tall, 9-span guard, to bring a bed for the monk. Before Little Kiwi could bring the bed, he rushed to me, not daring to enter the inner chamber. He mysteriously whispered, "Your Highness, the monk you found is truly robust. Your eyes are sharp." His words sounded strange. Was he suggesting I'd broken the bed? Boy, what are you thinking? I just want the monk to rest. He hasn't slept in 3 days. This worries me greatly. I may be a villainous, but I have principles. If the monk were to die of exhaustion here, I would feel immensely guilty. Little Qi indicated that it wasn't necessary. He whispered, "Your Highness, just don't torment him at night. Let him lie peacefully, isn't that enough?" I pondered for a moment. He had a point. These past few nights he's been chanting for me. Tonight I'll let him rest. Besides, my bed is large enough for 2, though I wonder if the monk would agree. Hearing this, the monk looked up at him, fingering his brown prayer beads, his Adam's apple bobbing, but he said nothing. As night fell, the monk picked up a scripture to prepare for his lecture. I cut him off. "This princess commands you to go to bed." The monk's wrist trembled, and the scripture in his hand fell straight onto my head. I wanted to accuse him of plotting to harm a princess. The corners of my mouth curled into a smile. "Do you know what crime it is to plot against a princess?" The monk, wrapped in many layers of robes, pressed his palms together. "Please enlighten this humble monk, Your Highness." The monk was so boring, but his expressions were highly amusing. I beckoned him with a smile. "Come up here, and I'll tell you." Forced by my intimidating reputation, the monk clutched his prayer beads and monastic robes tightly. Something seemed to flash in his eyes. My heart jolted. Had I made the monk cry? Although he was good-natured and easily bullied, I had resolved to be a good person. I asked the monk, "Are you crying?" "This monk does not weep," he replied. His words clearly conveyed a sense of injustice. I wouldn't let him off. I turned and lifted his face, carefully looking into his dark pupils. But I saw nothing else, only a tiny reflection. It was me. The monk froze, showing no reaction to my actions. His beautiful eyes were wide open, looking directly into mine without a trace of anger. Feeling a little flustered, I mumbled, "Monk, why are you staring at me? I truly am a wicked villainess, stealing from others and then crying foul. Your Highness's eyes are truly beautiful." He only looked at my eyes, not at me. I was even more furious than before. "Monk, why aren't you looking at me? In your Highness's eyes, there is someone the wind blowing in from the window makes the lamplight flicker. Who is it?" I asked urgently. My heart was in a turmoil, beating wildly as if it wanted to leap from my chest. The monk lowered his eyes and said very slowly, "It is I." My heart was completely in disarray. The monk had always hidden in the corner of the bed, fearing I would touch him again. I also needed time to calm down. My face was burning, and I didn't want the monk to see me like this, but at the same time, my anger hadn't subsided one bit. The monk's face had never turned red, nor did he toss and turn sleeplessly like me. Even when I touched him, his skin was very cold, unlike my fiery impulsiveness that had even caused a nosebleed. What's more, the monk had said he wouldn't return to secular life. The more I thought about it, the more distressed I became, crying uncontrollably. But the monk was still lying beside me. "Your Highness, are you sad?" He seemed to hesitate for a long time. "Nonsense, I'm not sad. Could I cry like this without any self-respect?" My initial quiet whimpers turned into loud sobs. I even had the ignominy of a runny nose. The monk wanted to comfort me. "Your Highness, would you like to hear me chant scriptures?" "No, if you don't care about me, just leave me alone." The monk then said, "Your Highness, do you need to wipe your nose?" I was crying so hard I'd forgotten all about my appearance. This princess, grown so old, was falling for someone for the first time. Why did it have to be a monk? I was so miserable. If I had known, I would have kidnapped the dog next to the male lead instead. Stupid monk. Even though the scent of sandalwood on him was so pleasant, I still wanted to scold him because he didn't understand my feelings. The monk stirred. I suddenly felt a little shy. I watched to see what he would do, thinking he would lean in and gently wipe the tears from my eyes. Instead, he offered me something. "Your Highness, please take this yourself. It would be improper for this monk to reach out." I was about to burst out in curses, when suddenly a silken object appeared in my hand. Looking closer, it was my very own crimson mandarin duck embroidered undergarment. My sobs caught in my throat. I trembled as I asked the monk, "Where did this come from?" The monk, somewhat pleased with himself, said, "This monk found this brocade cloth of superior quality, so I washed it clean to serve as a spare handkerchief for your Highness." "You, monk, you did a fine job." Sleeping until midnight, I unconsciously tossed and turned in bed when my hand suddenly brushed against something long. I suddenly awoke from my dream. I've read so many forbidden picture books circulating in the market, how could I not know what this was? I had touched the monk's forbidden spot. The monk also awoke, even more panicked than I was. His lips trembled. Whenever he was flustered, he wasn't like others. Others would turn red, but he bit his lips tightly. "Master, this princess—" Before I could finish, the monk interrupted me. "What did your highness touch?" How could I, a maiden, say such a thing aloud? I said awkwardly, "Monk, I touched your tail." I hoped he would understand the implication of my words. I promised that if he agreed, I would take responsibility for him. The monk no longer slept. He crawled to the edge of the bed, not even bothering with his shoes, stumbling as he tried to run away. "No, you don't," I yelled for little Kiwi. Little Kiwi immediately brought his men to surround the room. Not even a fly could escape. I looked very satisfied. "Master, if you dare to leave today, I will tell everyone in your temple about this incident." The author described me as a shameless villainess. This time, I decisively threw away my last shred of dignity. After all, I'd been shameless so many times. What difference would one more make? The monk trembled with rage, his lips quivering, but he was powerless. Later that night, he sat on his meditation cushion, quietly meditating. Only I remained in bed. I didn't like this chilly atmosphere, so I sought a truce. "Master, I want to hear you chant scriptures." He suddenly reverted to his original guarded demeanor, carefully asking, "Are you not afraid of me?" Why should I be afraid of him? Shouldn't he be afraid of me? Then I understood. I was too beautiful. He was afraid he wouldn't be able to control himself and would break his vows. I continued to reveal my intentions. "Master, I can't get close to you fast enough. How could I be afraid of you? If you want me to take responsibility for touching you," I chuckled, "to take responsibility for your body, I will go to my father and request an imperial decree." The monk seemed to sigh in relief. After that, he ignored me and continued chanting scriptures. 7 days and 7 nights had passed. The monk had to leave. I watched him board the carriage, reluctantly waving, my eyes welling up with tears. "Master, without me, you should still chant scriptures well, live well, cultivate well, exist well, master." He didn't say a word to me, only left his prayer beads, turned his head, and rode away without looking back. But the carriage had not gone far before it stopped by the roadside. I pursed my lips, secretly smirking. Could it be that the monk didn't want to leave after all and wanted to return? I shamelessly thought, with this princess's charm, how could the monk not say a single word? He must be captivated and reluctant to leave my beauty. I caught up, only to find that I had indeed overthought it. It was that detestable female lead who had come. Liu Qiu, Princess Leian, daughter of Marquis Boyang, hated evil as if it were her enemy, and a part of that evil was me. "Master Jing Qing, did she trouble you?" Liu Qiu asked, concerned. I hiked up my skirt and stepped forward, consumed by rage, my expression naturally sour. "What happens to him is none of your business." The words had barely left my mouth when I regretted them. I sounded exactly like a shrewish woman, arguing and wailing in the marketplace. The monk already disliked me. This would only push him further away. Ever since that lecture, the next time I returned to Cayenne Temple, Master Jing Qing was nowhere to be seen. She sneered, "If you didn't imprison him, what else could it be?" I was speechless for a moment. What she said wasn't entirely wrong, but I couldn't lose this war of words. "This princess is happy. What right do you have to interfere?" I regretted it again. My capricious and willful nature had been fully exposed. Next time, I absolutely must think before I speak, absolutely. But I had already said the wrong thing twice. I looked at the monk, feeling wronged. Why was he still silent? Was he afraid of exposing what I had done to him, thus staining his purity? And why did Liu Qiu frequently seek him out? Did he also like the female lead? Wasn't he just one of the many suitors pursuing her? I felt even more wronged but didn't show it. The monk shook his head. The female lead still wanted to stop him, but he pressed his palms together, bowing to both of us, signaling his departure. "If you have any doubts in the future, you may seek this monk at the temple." The monk even glanced at me once more, but when his eyes met mine, I quickly averted my gaze. Surely, those words were meant for the female lead. After the monk left, Liu Qiu still didn't stop. She had always been full of energy, like a little sun, but this princess was no less. She looked at me suspiciously. "Why did Master Jing Qing speak on your behalf? Did you use something to coerce the master?" I sneered disdainfully. "So what if I did? Why do you like to meddle in other people's affairs so much?" Besides, I was a little jealous of her. She knew the monk much earlier than I did. Influencing someone's spiritual cultivation wasn't a good thing either. She tried to persuade me with beautiful words and good intentions, but I wouldn't listen. Before she could finish, a panting servant ran up, saying that the porridge distribution point outside the city was ready, and everyone was waiting for her. Before I could argue with her, Liu Qiu rushed off. I didn't dwell on it. It was just because of that monk, he seemed to have taken my heart with him. The first day the monk left, I missed him. The second day the monk left, I missed him. The third day the monk left, I missed him terribly. I held his prayer beads, feeling as though I could see his dark pupils. The flowers intend, the water flows without feeling. Monk, you are truly cruel. This year there were floods, and the male and female leads were distributing porridge outside the city, creating an overwhelming stir. In the original plot, everything this villainous me wanted to do was useless, making me jump around like a foolish and wicked clown, only attracting more hatred. I had resolved to be a good person, and naturally, I had to do it without leaving a trace. I found Kayan Temple where the monk resided, invited the abbot, and secretly offered to donate rice, but asked that my involvement not be publicized. Kayan Temple was also distributing porridge, but its scale couldn't compare to the dazzling aura of the male and female leads. Through this porridge distribution, the male and female leads built a good reputation, laying a foundation among the people for their future claim to the throne. I had to compete with them, bringing this good reputation to Kayan Temple. Of course, my biggest selfish motive was the monk. I was desperate to see him. The abbot originally wanted to send a disciple to call him, but I insisted on going myself, to save time in case he dawdled or ran away the moment he heard it was me. The monk at this temple dressed like other monks and was equally reserved, yet in my eyes he shone. He was unlike everyone else. When I found him, he was lecturing on Buddhist teachings to a few people, including a young, beautiful woman. The affection in her eyes was just like mine used to be. She was even asking the monk when he would return to secular life. And he had said he only chanted for me. Clearly, this deceiver was lecturing for others too. Moreover, there were others who coveted him just like me. He offered her a gentleness he had never shown me, and I was consumed by maddening jealousy. I wanted to go and tell that woman. I set my eyes on this monk first, but I ran away instead. It was the first time I realized that liking someone could turn you into such a coward. The novice monk who had accompanied me ran after me. "Benefactor, Master Jing Qing is here." "Master Jing Qing? Who's that?" I didn't remember knowing any other monk, but when the monk appeared in my sight, I suddenly remembered that Jing Qing was his Dharma name. He was taller than the other monks, his posture as straight as a pine. His pair of dark pupils rested on the 2 tears streaming down my cheeks. "Why has your Highness come here?" A light drizzle began to fall. He slowly walked from the other end of the blue stone path, holding an oil paper umbrella. I took out his prayer beads. If he was truly heartless towards me, I wanted to return these beads to him, to sever my own illusions. "Take these back, I won't come again." My tone was stiff, trying to hide my cowardice. "I am a villainous, I am very bold. How could I be flustered?" The monk did not accept the prayer beads I returned to him. Instead, his gentle eyes made me fall into them. "This monk intends to? Ahaha." Before he could finish, I couldn't help but scream. There was a snake right behind the monk. The rain must have flooded its den. I yelled to my guard, "Little Kiwi, smash its head for me." I also pulled the monk behind me to show my courage in times of danger and my concern for him. Little Kiwi ran to chase the snake. The snake was incredibly cunning. It vanished in a blink. The monk's face was very pale, surely frightened. At this moment, I had to offer him some warmth. I told him not to be afraid. I confidently said, "This princess is not afraid of snakes. I will eat it." The monk's face stiffened. "How will you eat it?" "Naturally, in soup, steamed, or braised. Actually, I wouldn't eat it. I only said that to reassure him." Seeing his face grow increasingly grim, I quickly changed my approach. "This princess can eradicate all snakes in the city for you. I guarantee you will never see a snake again." But the monk was not moved. His lips began to tremble, his rosy lips now pale. He took the prayer beads and said, "In the future, please never seek this monk at the temple again." I was completely heartbroken. This princess was abandoned by a monk. The man this princess had liked for 3 days had no feelings for me. I was silent for 10 days, stunned and dazed. Little Kiwi was extremely flustered to see me return unharmed. I magnanimously didn't hold it against him. After all, I had resolved to be a good person. Aside from being busy with the female lead's affairs, I kept my word, leaving the city every 2 days. That snake seemed to become my confidant. I would sit on a rock, and it would coil around me, wiping my tears as I recounted the events of the past few days. It would listen intently, occasionally bowing its head in thought or flicking its tongue to lick my face. I told it, "I have a secret, I like that monk." It seemed startled. I continued. Unfortunately, the monk doesn't like me, he even despises me. It shook its head. It licked my palm as if telling me, you make people like you. This black snake was even more sentient than humans. It knew how to make me happy. I also told it that Marquis Boyang was still imprisoned by my father. Marquis Boyang had many confidants in court, and many already harbored rebellious intentions. I feared that day would come soon. It looked up at me, and yet I saw the monk's reflection in its dark eyes. It must be because I missed the monk too much. I mistook everything for him, even a snake. It always seemed on the verge of speaking, but I didn't understand the language of snakes, so I didn't pay much attention. Moreover, the monk had never appeared here. When Liu Qiu spoke, I still held a little hope, but unfortunately, it was all in vain. Everything was still heading towards a deadlock. The day Liu Qiu came to find me, she mysteriously wanted to take me somewhere. I had originally intended to leave the city to meet the great black serpent, but the city gates were closed early. I looked at her expression, then thought of what had happened these past few days. My chest tightened. I wanted to enter the palace to find my father and take him away. The throne meant nothing compared to his life. Little Qiu wasn't by my side. When I tried to run, Liu Qiu directly ordered her subordinates to knock me unconscious. When I awoke, I was in a carriage. Liu Qiu was indifferent. She stared at my face. If not for someone entrusting you to me, I wouldn't save you. This time, I even hid this matter from Jing Ye. Jing Ye was the male lead's name. I don't need your salvation. Let me down. You want to kill my father. I will not accept your favor. I knew I was being unreasonable. The world had long suffered under his tyrannical rule. But he was my father, the father who had loved me since childhood. I couldn't remain indifferent. She seemed not to have expected me to risk my life to leave. I pulled back the carriage curtain, jumped from the swiftly moving carriage, and rolled into the roadside bushes. The intense pain throughout my body brought tears to my eyes, but I had no time to care. I pushed my scraped hands against the ground, stood up, and ran, my heart filled with only one thought: save my father. Fortunately, Liu Qiu did not pursue me. When I reached the palace gates, I was met with desolation. This was no longer the imperial palace I knew. I had an escape route. I wanted to take my father through the secret passage written in the book. At this moment, the grand officials had also turned their allegiance, siding with the righteousness of the male and female leads. I was familiar with the palace, so I found my father one step ahead of everyone else. My father had aged 20 years, his temples streaked with silver. He sat on the imperial throne as if awaiting death. I, heedless of my appearance, rushed up and pleaded with him to come with me. If you don't go, the male lead will chop off your head and hang it on the city walls to rot in the sun, my father said. A sovereign dies for his nation. Losing the empire is no different from losing my life, so I will not leave. He also said, your father has wronged you, little Ewer. From now on, Ewer will no longer be a princess. In truth, I didn't care about the princess title. I just wanted family, a loved one by my side, but not a single one of those wishes had come true. As a result, I could only save my own life, but I no longer wanted to leave. A life without anything, existence was truly dull. My father told little Qiu to quickly lead me away, saying any further delay would be too late. It turned out that secret passage was prepared by my father for me. He had long known this day would come. But why had little Qiu arrived even faster than me? I ran. The secret passage had plenty of water and dry rations to help me survive, but I had no appetite. I didn't remember the contents of these pages very clearly. If in the book I had escaped, why would I still die? As I pondered this, I suddenly saw a large saber raised under the firelight on the wall. The figure was blurry, but I saw it clearly. Little Qiu said regretfully, Your Highness, I'm sorry. Following you means living days on the run, but if I take your head to claim the bounty, I'll get 1,000 taels of gold. I didn't struggle. Little Qiu was my guard, skilled in martial arts. I couldn't escape. I closed my eyes. Before I die, I can still get you something. This life is worth it. Little Qiu hesitated. He choked up, a 9-span strong man actually crying. He said, Your Highness, you have treated me very well, but all people are selfish. Don't blame me when you reach the underworld. He still steeled his heart. The great saber was about to fall. I was ready to embrace death. Perhaps death was liberation. I couldn't escape the ending in the book. The life of a villainess was like a joke. But then I heard the clang of a saber falling to the ground. I opened my eyes. It was the great black serpent. In the end, it was it who saved me. I thanked it. At this moment, my endurance for pain and physical strength had reached their limit. After extreme joy and sorrow, I gradually lost consciousness. I was found and taken home by a young woman, the very same one who had once asked the monk when he would return to secular life. I was grateful for her kindness in taking me in, but I didn't want to get close to her. I am a narrow-minded demon with a difficult personality. No wonder the monk didn't like me. The young woman thought I was still in pain and quickly brought me medicine. I, utterly ungraceful, held the bowl of medicine, my eyes welling up. I cautiously asked her if she had any news of the monk. I was afraid she would say no, but even more afraid she would say yes. The beautiful young woman smiled. I saw him just yesterday. The flame of hope I had so painstakingly ignited was instantly doused with a hiss. So, the monk had indeed left to avoid me, yet he was still in contact with others, especially Liu Qiu, who had lied to me, denying me even a single chance to see him again. My hand ached, so tense it felt like I couldn't hold the bowl of medicine. Why don't you ask me where he is? The young woman raised her stunning, bright green eyes, which resembled bamboo leaves. I stammered, accepting her help, yet still holding a grudge against her. I was truly despicable. So, where is he? I really was hopeless, unable to control my own mouth. The monk clearly detested me, yet I was still eagerly searching for him, causing him to flee in fright. The young woman deliberately spoke vaguely, not telling me clearly, her eyes curving into crescent moons. He'll be here tomorrow, you can ask him yourself. Tomorrow, had the monk returned to secular life and married this young woman? Had Liu Qiu lied to me because the monk had left the temple to marry? My heart clenched, filled with anxiety. I asked the young woman, does he know I'm here? He detests me so much, will he drive me away? Surely not. When he broke ties with me, he never said a harsh word. His nature is too kind. I bit my lower lip. What does it matter if I'm here? He already has a wife, I can't cling to him any longer. The young woman just smiled gently, saying nothing more. That smile was exactly like the monk's, they truly had the look of a married couple. My heart turned bitter. Before, I was a princess with power and authority. He didn't dare to openly reject me. Now I have nothing and am a fugitive. He will surely tell me to leave directly, to avoid me disturbing his peace. Compared to the young woman's generosity, I seemed petty. I had my own pride and dignity. At least I had once been a princess. I still wanted to save face in front of the person I liked. In my mind, I pictured the monk's current appearance. Perhaps his head had started to grow hair, but it hadn't been long, so the hair on his head would only be a little, likely coarse like a man's beard if touched. Why was I still thinking about him? He was now someone else's husband. In the middle of the night, I left the young woman's small courtyard, but I didn't yet know where I was going. The world was vast, surely there would be a place for me to live. This was the outskirts, not far from the estate I had bought. I still had money, enough to live out the rest of my life by running a small business. My father's death was precisely the arranged ending in the book, but my own fate had now changed. I couldn't see the path ahead. Since childhood, little Fang had accompanied me whenever I went out, and little Kiwi would handle everything on the road. Now, those people were gone, only I remained. Because I had jumped from the carriage, I was scraped all over and my ankle was sprained. Carelessly, I tripped over a rock, even the rocks were against me. Just as I thought I was about to make intimate contact with Mother Earth, something coiled around my waist. It was still the great black serpent. Your Highness, the snake can speak. I had been with it for so long, yet I had never heard it speak. Moreover, this voice was a little familiar, like the monk's. In my last moments, I was still hallucinating. I was truly beyond saving. The black serpent spoke again. I am Jing Qing. I have always deceived your Highness. It is my fault. I was stunned. Why was this snake imitating the monk's way of speaking? It and I looked at each other, and in its dark eyes, I saw my own face. Its eyes were misty. It seemed to be crying. You. Are you truly the master? My heart was in knots. It wasn't hard to accept cross-species communication, but why hadn't he said something sooner? The black serpent turned its head, slowly setting me down, no longer looking at me. But I no longer had my former confidence and fierce spirit. Finally, he spoke first. Your Highness. I hung my head. I was no longer a princess, but he still called me Your Highness. He said, Your Highness is still my princess. I wailed, embracing his serpentine body and touching his scales. My father is gone, my princess's residence is gone, I have no home. He used his tongue to lick away my fallen tears. In front of him, I cried like a child. He said, I will take Your Highness home. Your Highness must take responsibility for what you said before. He transformed into his human form, still as handsome as ever, about a head and a half taller than me. Exhausted from crying, I leaned into his embrace. Although he had no body heat, he gave me a warmth that no one else could. It turned out he had never left, always staying by my side, protecting me. That day, he thought I had seen through his identity and intentionally said those words to him. The sentence he hadn't finished saying was, "This monk intends to return to secular life." But I hadn't listened to him completely. I thought I was being delusional, but he was far more distressed than I was. When we returned, the young woman had been waiting for us for a long time. She called out brightly, "Brother, why are you so early?" he said. "It's not early. One step later and my princess would have been gone." I felt like I had nowhere to hide because of all my previous wild guesses. They were siblings, and I had been secretly grieving for so long. Late at night, I hugged his waist. His entire body stiffened. He didn't dare to breathe heavily. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I don't have body temperature," I said. "It's okay. At night, I can't control myself from reverting to my original form. It might scare you," he said worriedly. I continued, "It's okay." It turned out I wasn't the only one worried about not being perfect, about my flaws being exposed by the other person. He and I were the same. I cupped his face and kissed him. "As long as it's you, I like it all. I like your human form and I like your snake form." He didn't say anything, but I heard his heart beating incredibly fast. Me too. Side story, Monk Jing Qing. It seemed I had been abducted. I sat in the carriage until a female benefactor came up. I needed to explain clearly to her that we were strangers. She must have mistaken me for someone else. The moment I opened my mouth, she told me to spit out what was inside. How did she know I had prayer beads in my mouth? I used these beads to stabilize my snake nature. I couldn't help but suspect my snake form had been exposed. My heart was pounding with anxiety, but she didn't seem afraid of me. Instead, she looked at me and smiled. When I first transformed, I was extremely weak. Venerable Master Ulan rescued me. At that time, I had just transformed and found it difficult to control my form, pain and hardship clinging to me. "This is the sacred land of Buddhism. I am a demon. How can I enter this pure place?" Venerable Master Ulan shook his head. "Buddha says to save boundless beings. There is no being that cannot be saved." From then on, I shaved my head and took refuge in Buddhism. The Buddha is compassionate. I too am one of countless beings. Only Buddha can save me. This pure place was unlike the outside world. Every day I chopped wood and carried water, a stark contrast to my life as a demon. I gradually adapted to this life, which was very peaceful. Meditation and chanting enriched my inner self, and my demonic nature was suppressed. Venerable Master Ulan came to find me, asking how my cultivation had been recently. Before I could speak, he shook his head, took something from his chest, and sighed, "I give these prayer beads to you, my child." I pressed my palms together, receiving them with both hands. When I couldn't control my transformation, these beads could help me find myself and restrain myself. People commonly feared snakes. A child fell into the water, and I, eager to save him, was so overwhelmed by emotion that I completely failed to realize whether I was in my snake form at that moment. When I pulled him from the water, what I saw in the child's eyes was not gratitude, but ultimate terror. Even though I saved him, he was still afraid of me. The child cried endlessly, calling for his mother, continuously screaming and wailing. He saw me as evil, or perhaps as a demon not accepted by humans. After I placed him on the shore, I said nothing more, leaving in solitude. I wondered, why do people fear snakes? I had never done anything evil, yet they branded me with wickedness. I didn't recount this incident to Venerable Master Ulan. I believed I could find enlightenment in Buddhism from this, so I cultivated Buddhist Dharma even more diligently, hoping to reach Bodhi soon. I left the temple after lecturing. As I was about to return, I suddenly saw people rushing towards me. I couldn't dodge them in time. They threw a sack over my head. I feared revealing my true form would disturb everyone sitting there, so I decided to deal with it when no one was around. I struggled a bit, saw they had no intention of harming me, so I let them lead me away. They led me into a lavishly decorated carriage. I pondered my sins deeply. I had diligently cultivated Buddhism all this time. Were they trying to ruin my cultivation now? The one who boarded was a radiant female benefactor. I had just met her, but only once. What did she want to do? I could see through her. Her arrogant words and actions were merely excuses. She said she wanted to hear me teach and that I was very interesting. I chuckled to myself. Interesting? When you learn my true form, you won't say interesting, only terrified. She said nothing more, only used a smile to conceal her true thoughts. So, had she truly seen through me or not? What was her real purpose? From the moment I stepped into the princess's residence, I felt dozens of eyes staring at me. I lowered my head and followed the servant to the bedchamber. The princess's residence was heavily guarded. Although I was a demon, my cultivation was still low. I didn't want to harm anyone, nor did I want to reveal my snake form in front of anyone, so I walked very cautiously. Unexpectedly, this female benefactor followed me to the bedchamber. I looked at the objects in the room, my eyes flashing. They looked truly bizarre. After the female benefactor gracefully stepped over the threshold, she quickly closed the door. When I heard the door bang shut, I was startled. There were only 2 of us in the room. What did she ultimately want to do? 10 years of inner peace were suddenly shaken. Even my breathing became somewhat erratic. I looked at the strange objects and found them odd, pointing to a brightly colored short top and asking, "Having cultivated in Buddhism for so long, it has been a long time since I have been close to people, especially women." I didn't expect the female benefactor to blush first, then stumble forward and pick up a handkerchief to wipe her nose. She seemed a little naive. Perhaps she hadn't detected my snake tail. Thinking this, I breathed a sigh of relief. Why was this female benefactor still not leaving? I glanced at her face, feeling a little wary. What was her objective? It seemed not so simple. Humans have diverse tastes, and there are many who like snake soup. Was this female benefactor eyeing my snake body, trying to lure me into revealing my true form, then skin me, extract my tendons, and eat me? This couldn't continue. I had to leave, but her guards were stationed outside the door, making it very difficult for me to depart. This female benefactor was truly greedy and cunning. She pretended to want to listen to scripture to trick me. Why was there such a manipulative person? She woke up, still feigning ignorance. I wanted to leave, but she refused me. What I said was reasonable, but I didn't expect her to meet my request. She feigned piety, trying to lure me into a trap, but I didn't expect her to have those asterisk intentions towards me. She didn't want to eat me, she wanted to consume asterisk me. She didn't know my snake form, but she had other designs. My panic increased severalfold. Everyone had always feared me. Now, how dare she treat me like this? I couldn't utter the words. The moment she swallowed that pill, I believed her. But then, she had a nosebleed. Was this another attempt to seduce me? I stepped back 2 paces to prevent her from plotting mischief. I didn't expect her to be afraid of blood, fainting right in front of me. Her innocent demeanor didn't seem to be an act. She asked me, "Can this scripture be chanted only for me?" I was a little stunned. In all these years, no one had ever asked me this, but she seemed very concerned about my answer. I felt compelled by a devil to answer her, and my heartbeat seemed to quicken. I said, "The scripture I chant has never been recited to anyone else." She then said, "She wants me to go to bed and rest." How could she? How could she have no reservations whatsoever? My long still heart began to beat rapidly. I immediately refused her. When she said these words, there was not a hint of hesitation, her eyes as clear as if she were simply eating and drinking. My heart was set on Bodhi. At this moment, her words disturbed my calm. She suddenly lifted my face, and a wave of warmth enveloped my body. I was stunned. Her hand had warmth that I did not possess. She stared into my eyes, trying to see something in them, but I saw myself in her eyes, clearly me, yet new. Her eyes were clear and sparkling, like a guide in the dark night, leading me to the path of salvation I had always sought. If the Buddha could not save me, I would ask her to save me. At the same time, she feared me, feared my snake body, and hated me like everyone else. If I asked her to save me and she knew the truth, she would not. In the middle of the night, I heard her whimpering, so I handed her the clean brocade handkerchief. She immediately stopped crying. I must have comforted her correctly. I couldn't help but look at her, desperately pleading for her to save me from the sea of suffering, yet I feared her refusal. She spoke and acted decisively. "Let's leave this matter for later." My greatest fear was that my snake tail would involuntarily appear at night. I saw her suddenly widen her eyes. She must have discovered my snake tail. I braced myself for her scream, her disgust, but instead, she said she would take responsibility for me. What did these words mean? In summary, she hadn't detected my snake form, and my worries were finally extinguished. My request remained unspoken, and it was already the 7th day. She wanted to take me away. I wanted to stay, but it was hard to speak, so in the end, I said nothing. I gave her the prayer beads. When speaking with benefactor Liu, I hinted that if she wished, she could come find me. I waited for her for 3 days. As I copied scriptures and chanted before the Buddha, my heart could no longer find peace as before. On the 4th day, I finally waited for her. I saw her hurriedly leaving, and I quickly unfurled my umbrella and followed her, yet I didn't want her to see my discomposure. I walked slowly, a mix of eagerness and apprehension. She still had that familiar demeanor. In this world, only she was so naive, only she could save me from evil. But she returned the prayer beads to me. My heart trembled. Did she feel I was unsuitable, wanting to cut ties with me? I was afraid not to express my feelings, fearing there would be no other chance. Rejection or questioning, I had to be straightforward. But then she said she liked to eat snakes and wanted to catch all the snakes in the city. I immediately panicked. She truly hated me that much. She hated snakes. I decisively spoke those words. Since things were like this, clinging on would be a mistake. I could no longer cultivate peacefully before the Buddha. I returned to the mountains and forests. There were no people here. I planned to stay for hundreds, even thousands of years to save myself. Benefactor Liu learned of my situation from my younger sister and used this as a condition to inform her. I wanted to see her, but she didn't want to see me. She came to the desolate mountain. I didn't want to disturb her, but I still craved salvation, begging her to save me. She was indeed afraid of me. I was disheartened, but then she stopped and looked at me. Hope ignited within me. She said she would bring me food and also asked me not to eat. Monk, how much truth and falsehood were in her words. From then on, she truly came to see me. At first, I was extremely reserved, fearing I would scare her. Later, I tried licking her palm and she would look into my eyes and give a clear, bright laugh. I took another step, licking her face with my snake tongue. Her face was rosy and fair, not lacking in vitality like a demon's. She also said she liked that monk. What did like mean? Was she hinting at something, but I didn't dare to take that step for fear of failure? She confided her thoughts to me. I couldn't do other things, but Benefactor Liu still owed me a favor. I wanted to help her, but I still hesitated. Was she willing to save me? She recklessly charged into the imperial palace, covered in injuries. It was then I realized she had such a side, strong-willed yet impulsive. I rescued her and asked my younger sister to take care of her. I didn't know if her words were true or false. It was truly difficult to find such a person in this world. I had lived among humans for so many years and only met one such person. Her wounds hadn't healed, yet she left. I worried about her injuries and wondered if she left because of me. But this matter had to be clarified no matter what. I couldn't wait any longer. She would leave without hesitation. I originally thought she couldn't accept me, but I didn't expect her to question why I hadn't said anything sooner. She even said she liked me, liked everything about me. She was willing to save me. I wanted to enter the mortal world, and she would guide me into it. I would walk through beautiful youth with her, accompany her for half a century, be by her side when her hair turned silver. I haven't truly woken up. I'm still in a dream. Life and death are like shadows of night. I only wish this dream would never end, that I could stay here forever.